Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome to AdoramaXP. I'm Josh Saleh, and today I am so honored to bring, I personally think, an incredible, energetic, passionate, incredibly knowledgeable person that I've gotten so lucky to work with. Sean Spaceman Rogers.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here with you. You're like one of my favorite people in the scene ever since we got a chance to work together back on the Rewind show, which was really fun.
Let's just start with your resume, for example, because it is incredible. And these are just some of the games you worked on: Call of Duty, Rocket League, Halo, multiple esports events, UMG Rewind, which we got to work together. You're a YouTube content creator. You're an inspiration to tons of gamers out there and esports fans out there. You've gotten to be a part of the esports award shows. What got you into gaming, and what was like one of your first introductions into the gaming world?
One of my first kind of memories really is my dad got me, well, my parents got me around the holiday time. They got me like the original, I didn't get the Game Boy Color, but I got like the Game Boy, I think it was the Advanced, and then the Game Boy SP, which was like the flip, which was mind-blowing to like a 6-year-old. But when I got the Game Boy and I got Mario Kart, that was my kind of my first entry. My dad had an NES from the 80s that he had, and he used to play Super Mario Brothers 3, and he knew how to speedrun it. So I would watch him play it, and then I would play with him. So those are like my first memories as a young kid was playing a lot of old NES games. And then I hit kind of my gaming crescendo when the 360 came out. I waited a couple years, and around 8th grade, I saved up from working and cutting lawns to getting a 360, and I bought Halo 3, and it just everything just, man, like it was colors and sounds, and I felt like I got consciousness for the first time in my life.
The Xbox 360 is one of the greatest consoles ever made.
My mind, John. One of the greatest inventions of mankind. Like millions of years of evolution came down to the 360, and I'm good with that.
At what point did you realize maybe I can make a career out of this?
At the time, Twitch didn't exist, so I think it was Justin TV. Around that time, when video games on YouTube was kind of blowing up with the creator sphere, like CNNers, and I would look at Achievement Hunter very early in the day. There were a lot of gaming channels that kind of showed me that gaming could be more than just logging on with friends, and you could kind of build a community and build equity in a online avatar. That was really kind of the big thing. So watching organizations like FaZe Clan and Optic Gaming, and Strictly Business back in the day, and DZ. That's a deep cut for you sniping fans. Oh, people have like lives around this. That's really interesting. You can have a life around playing Call of Duty and trying to hit clips and like playing Halo and competing. And then introduced to MLG with like the Sunday showdowns on ESPN, sponsored by Dr. Pepper. And then you had like all these events with MLG and Halo 3 and then Gears of War and Call of Duty. I'm just like, oh my God, like my little child adolescent brain just exploded. And it was just this entire network of, there is an industry that exists around video games. That is the coolest thing ever.
All of the names that you mentioned when you watched streaming services, and you felt that excitement in like, wow, I kind of want to do this, or I see how things are going. People are now watching your content and feeling that exact same way. How does that feel where people are, talking to you, commenting on your videos, maybe even messaging you saying, thank you for doing this. This is incredible work that you're doing. It's inspiring me to do X, Y, Z. How does that feel for you?
In all honesty, I mean, like it's obviously like I appreciate a lot of the positive feedback that I get, whether it's content or my work. But for me, it doesn't feel kind of the same as when I was watching as a kid, looking at esports when I was first starting in gaming, because the people I was watching then, like the Puckets, the Bensons, the FaZe Clans, most people at MLG, like they were pretty established. It was like those people are already at kind of the top at the time before esports continued to explode. That was kind of like the peak of like, this is where you want to be. So as much as I appreciate the positivity is certainly around a lot of my work, for me, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like I'm doing that much, because I'm still very much in the moment of trying to figure out my life and my career and stuff. So for me, it's like, I'm still that kid who's looking up to everybody else and being like, oh, I want to do this and this and this, and I want to get more established and accomplish this.
When do you think you'll be satisfied? Like, what's your goal?
A good end goal for really anybody, myself included, is one, if I can consistently every year pay my bills, which so far I've been very blessed to, even freelancing, been able to do. But if I can pay my bills every year, that's just kind of a goal that never really stops, just kind of repeats. But two is getting to a point where I feel confident enough in both my content, but also my normal commentating job, to where I don't have to stress so much about the next step, whether the next step is a gig or accomplishing something specific or getting into a specific sector or making a move with a specific community. I think it's more of the older I get, the more understood and kind of racehorse like I'll be with the blinders on, being like, okay, like I just need to get a few more things figured out, and then I'll be in a position where I feel like I'm stable enough.
So I want to talk about your latest YouTube video. It's reached over 400,000 views. It's all about the masterpiece that is Andor, which is, in my opinion, arguably the greatest Star Wars show
Thank you,
of all
Josh.
time.
Thank you, Josh. You texted me that, I was so happy, dude. I was like, I want to hug you.
What was your reaction when you saw that video climb to the 100,000s, the 200,000s, and now past 400,000?
10% like happiness and being like, okay, yeah, like I expected it to do better than maybe my other content. Because the first time I had a video really go viral, it was really unexpected. And I knew after that, I was like, well, every video I make from here on out might not be the same quality or might not be kind of in the same tone. So I'm not expecting these things to continue to blow up. So you kind of have to accept that if you're doing YouTube or anything. Like, you're going to have stuff that goes viral, stuff that doesn't. It's just how you get better over time. But the first like hour, it got 100 views in like the first hour. And like, you know, for my channel at the time, that was about a benchmark. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I want to be able to get a certain amount in a day or like a week, and I'll be happy with that. But first day got like 100 views, super happy. Or just first hour got like 100 views, and then it just kept climbing. And I don't know if it was it's always a mixture of timing, thumbnail, title, and opening 30 seconds. Those are like top 4 ways that YouTube videos usually do really well and success wise. Is can you time it perfectly, and how do you get people to click on the video? And I think it was a good combination of those things, a good perfect storm. But once it got 100 views, then it just kind of hit the algorithm, and then it was up to 1,000, and then 2,000, 3,000, and then it just kept climbing. And I was like, oh, as soon as within a day or two, if it's climbing over 10K, you know it's going to go viral. And it's just like, okay, I was like, all right, it's just a waiting game now. Like it's going to keep climbing. I woke up the next day and it was at like 50,000 or so, and it just kept going. It was like, okay, again, like one of those things where it doesn't hit. It's like, I just have to worry about the next video now. But of all the videos to kind of do that, I felt that the first 5 minutes or so of this review was just kind of different. And I was hoping that, because I felt like I put a lot more into the script this time than maybe another review, I was hoping this one maybe get a little bit more love and attention from the specific community that likes Andor.
You have been able to cast some of the greatest tournaments and games of our generation. We said it earlier, but I just want to say it again. Halo, Call of Duty, Rocket League. Those are huge titles. What was one of your first casting jobs, if you remember?
I can tell you both. My first online gig was not even a gig. It was just online. The first time I casted online was during end of Black Ops 2 season, beginning of Call of Duty Ghosts, and I was just casting over friends playing 8s and casting like GB matches and tournaments that were rebroadcasted on YouTube. So like that was just for fun. But like my first ever actual gig was in person in 2015. I think I was 17. And it was in New Jersey. Dude, I'm pushing 30 now. It's scary, man. Everything feels so old.
Welcome to the club.
I hate it. I hate it so much. I don't like this. It was in New Jersey, and we were doing Call of Duty at the time, but it was really strange. I'm like, I'm 17, I'm here, and it's again, it kind of hits you. It's surreal. Like everybody's in the same place to accomplish the same thing. Drove up, stayed in a motel, paid my way there. Obviously, went in. We have no air conditioning, tin roof, so all of the air from the consoles is hitting the roof and just making 100 degrees in the venue. Wearing a suit that's 2 times too big. It's just. It was a beautiful old-fashioned local event, but you know, that's kind of where you cut your teeth really as a commentator, and like where you kind of learn the ropes. It's like doing stuff online when nobody's watching, and then throwing yourself in the passion pit when there's really nothing other than experience to gain. There's nothing you're going to get out of it other than just like the experience of the event. But that's kind of where like you're like a young fighter. You're like going in. You're like, I know I'm probably going to get my butt handed to me, but we're going to throw these haymakers, Josh. And if it lands, it lands. So you try. But that was like the early memories. 2015, just being like a young kid sweating in 100 degrees inside of a building in New Jersey. Being like, okay, this is
with an oversized suit. It sounds like someone's bar mitzvah.
With an oversized suit, they did not help anything.
So going from there, what has been one of the greatest esports events that you've gotten to work on?
Ooh, there's a lot for sure. I think one that stands out. There's a bunch. There's a Halo event that stands out for sure. My first MLG event is one that's like really important. Anytime Call of Duty has has kept their doors open for me. It's been really a blessing. But I think the one that stands out the most is actually last year for the 2022. It is 2022 last year.
What year is
The
it?
winter, dude, it's getting tough sometimes. The winter major that happened so we were inside for Rocket League. We were inside the SoFi Stadium in
Whoa,
Los
yeah.
Angeles. And so SoFi is this massive behemoth of, it's like a city. And there's a massive portion right near the ticketing gate that you can go into a side building, and it's in SoFi, and it's the YouTube theater. So they have concerts there. They have all kinds of stuff, like conventions, all kinds of stuff. 6,000 seats, really cool, literally inside the stadium. And we had our winter major there, so I got to come out. We had our Rocket League event. It was super fun. Got to cast on the floor, and like again, 6,000 people, and we're casting Rocket League, so it's like a soccer match. People have their horns. They have those like inflatable tubes that you bang together. It was really, really fun. And I remember at the end, kind of our whole collective group, like breathed and then just like quietly sighed, because we were all like, with how long we've been working and how big this event was, first event back after COVID in like 3 years, with a crowd and everything like that. It was a really big event professionally because it was so huge, but also just kind of realizing like, okay, like this is what those sweaty days inside of that tin roof in New Jersey were all about, right? Like this is what we were trying to do. So it was a nice realization of the effort that was put in for the past 11 years.
Typically, you have a co-caster with you.
Yes.
What are some advice that you have for co-casters out there? Or what have you learned being a co-caster that would help other co-casters out there?
Listen, don't be the smartest person in the room. Always be willing to fix everything and ask for help. Those are like the top 4 that I tell people sometimes when they ask. Like I'm not like, hey, listen to me. But like when people ask like, what can I do to improve? Especially when they're saying like, I have a co-caster I don't have chemistry with, or I have a co-caster I'm trying to work on our cadence with, or I want our chemistry to get better. Being more personable with that person will usually help. Like having a co-caster that you're either friends with behind the scenes or you have like good energy with is really important. I've been very blessed to have a lot of co-casters who I've just vibed with really well, which goes a massively long way that people don't realize. If you like your co-caster, not that you dislike them, but like if you just enjoy their energy, you will have a much better commentary reel than you would before if you didn't. So try to find things about someone you're working with that you enjoy, things you can connect on. Be willing to listen, be willing to learn. I hate being the better, and I don't like that term, but I hate being the person with the more experience in a casting call. Granted, I've been doing this for 13-ish years, so like I do have more experience than some, but I like when somebody I'm working with is better than me and has been doing it, whether it's in a specific game, longer than me, because there's always something I can learn and pick up on that makes me better, which is literally all that matters at the end of the day. Is like, if you're a commentator, you want to get better. When you can lean on someone based on their personality because you're already friends, all of a sudden it carries you through those really like slow slog games that are just like, oh my God, this series just, I can't get a handle on it. So you have to be willing to be really personable, be outgoing, be yourself, but also just listen, man. Like even social media is so loud and everything, just quiet. Just listen, take it in, be willing to learn, stuff like that, Josh. I just want people to listen more, man. Just listen, Josh.
Sorry, I wasn't. Can you repeat all that again?
Listen, Josh.
What advice do you have for up and coming casters?
Number one, the first thing I tell most people when they ask, how do I get involved? How do I start getting not recognized, but like, how do I get my name out there? How do I get people to realize that I'm a caster, that I want to cast? Record yourself doing games, whether it's professional gameplay that's on YouTube, you can just mute and then record yourself over it. Whether it's sitting over your friends casting their games, record yourself, post it on Twitter. The number one thing, record it and post it on social media. Twitter wasn't that big back in the day. I mean, it was, but like for casters, it wasn't a huge way of getting noticed. I was posting way back then, and I still post now. There are a lot of commentators that just for some reason don't post. Posting your work is a lot of like, not only showing what you're doing currently, but showing that you're actively doing your job. And I'm a fiend for posting on Twitter, whether it's events, I'll get somebody go in and clip out stuff, or whether I'm working online and during the break, I'll go back if I think something worked and I'll clip it and post it on Twitter. You want to keep yourself relevant. So post stuff on Twitter, tag local event organizers, tag community members, be like, hey, I'm a new commentator, I'm trying to get involved, here's my work. get yourself in the door by showing what you can do. That is the number one tip for anybody who wants to get involved. Number two is obviously cold calling and DMs. Everybody's afraid of DMing someone or emailing someone and being like, I don't want to annoy them. That is what DMs are for. I was DMing and emailing people for a long time before I eventually got more gigs that I have now. And it maybe is because of the fact that I was DMing them and emailing them way back in the day. But don't be afraid to cold call people and be like, hey, I'm a fan of your work. I want to know if you can either A, take a look at what I've just done, or B, give me some advice on how to get more involved. Reach out, make your name and your face notable to people. Introduce yourself, because if you start getting yourself into people's heads, if there is a community event that pops up, a lot of times when like professional casters like myself, if we see a community event and they'll be like, we're looking for casters, I'd be like, I can think of 3 or 4 people off the top of my head right now who are community casters who could do that event. Do commentary as a hobby. When I got involved, I was young. I was really young. So for me, it was like, I want this to be my career. Now, granted, I was a benefactor of the fact of being so young. I was lucky that I was so young that I could make that choice because I had time to figure that out. But for a lot of people who are jumping in now, who may be a little bit older, or maybe, you know, moving into their 30s, a couple of people even in their 40s trying to get started, or people even in high school who have a lot of competition because commentary is so saturated, jump into it. You can always have the intent of trying to go professional. That's always a good thing to strive for. But don't jump in thinking, I need to make money off this, or it's a waste of time, or I want to do this so I can pay my rent, or I want to do this because in a year or two, I want to be at the top. If you're very lucky and you're very good, which is a small, less than 1% of people who actually do it, you will do that. There have been plenty of cases where that's happened. But for the vast majority, myself included, you're not going to get there overnight. And you're not going to be doing this out of the gate for the first month making money. It took me till I started casting in 2012. It took me till 2017 to get my first paycheck.
What's one of the greatest things you've learned in your 13 years?
There are a lot of times where I sit here and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. There are a lot of times just in life, when you become an adult, you get this weird existential sense where you're like, I don't know what's going on half the time. But I think that's a good thing. What I've learned is, number one, if you continue to be determined about something, even if you have really good days, really bad days, you'll probably figure it out. Whether that's being a talent, working behind the scenes with content, whatever it is. If you're passionate about something and you're willing to take the good days with the bad, you'll probably be successful, because most people along the way just quit. They just quit when it goes wrong. They quit when it goes south, and that's okay. It's just, if you are willing to get through those failures, you probably will figure it out. But number two is, I really don't know that much, and that's a good thing, because there are a lot of times where I'm surrounded by, when it's esports awards and I'm sitting there surrounded by literal like pantheons of gods of this industry, and I'm like, wow, I have so far to go in my job and like how I'm doing. That's a good feeling, because I never want to be in a position where I feel like I figured it out, because at that point it gets scarier.
That
like
ego.
It's all downhill from here. Like, what am I going to do? Get better? No. Like, you want to always be in a position where you're like, okay, I thought I knew maybe 60%. I walked into this building surrounded by all these people, and I felt like I knowing 10%. That is a good feeling for me, because I'm like, okay, like it's not over. There's still things to push through and get going. And then again, that cyclically makes you better, and it all feeds back into building your resume. So be a good person too. That's a big thing. If you're a good person in any industry, you will go farther than people who are not. Yeah. Be a good person. Don't be mean to others.
Where do you see esports going in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think that while esports is currently, I think the market itself is retracing, because I'm not going to jump into the whole crypto investment thing, but with any investment that is speculative and lucrative at best, there's always going to be a lot of phantom money that floats around. So when the market has to recorrect and come back down to earth, you're going to get a lot of shakiness and volatility, and the bubble idea. Esports is in a very weird state at the moment. It's going to be fine. It's not going to go anywhere, but it's definitely retracing back to kind of where it was pre-pandemic, which is scary, because the pandemic inflated a lot of numbers, made a lot of people feel like esports was booming. It certainly was, but there's a lot of obvious holes that exist in the industry that need to be patched up and fixed. And I think that the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to see the pressure for esports to push into mainstream more than it is already. And I'm talking like syndication with networks. I think pushing into actual television contracts is going to be big. The front runners, looking at people like E-League, who currently work with TNT, those are going to be the kinds of studios that I expect to spearhead. ESL has a lot of European coverage, but I would say that the esports in the next 5 to 10 years needs to start considering how crucial the next push is into the syndication realm.
What would you say is the hardest growing pain of the industry? And if you could change something in the industry, what would you change?
Professionally, I'd say hardest growing pain stability, at least from my perspective, because I can only speak as a commentator. Stability for commentators is obviously a big thing, and it's something that I've been very vocal about, and like I think it's getting more attention now, which is a good thing. But stability for commentators doesn't exist the same way it does like in traditional sports, because you have the NCAA, you have professional sports, and the contracts there are not only really good, but they're stable. You get like, oh, we're going to sign you for 2, 3, 5, 6 years. You get long-term contracts. That doesn't really exist in esports for commentators. The growing pain is getting to a point where, players are getting a lot of money, and some of them get multi-year deals, not all of them, but commentators getting to a point where a little bit more security, a little bit more job security would be really, really beneficial. I think that's a growing pain. But universally in esports, the growing pain really, I think, is representation. I think that's a big thing we've been in discussions for a while, and we being proverbial, not me, but like the entire community has been in discussion a while about how we need more diversity. We need to have better systems and programs in place to encourage women, people of color, non-binary folk, all across the spectrum, whatever it is, whatever you identify as. We want to see your voices and your faces in video games and in esports. And the better we get at that, and the more we cut down on the stigmatizations and all that stuff, overall, the more esports flourishes and gets better.
First console you ever played on?
PlayStation 2.
What was one of your favorite PlayStation 2 games that you played on?
Battlefront 1. I liked Battlefront 2 a lot, but Battlefront 1 for some reason was just different.
Top 5 video games of all time.
Halo 3, Pokemon Platinum, God game. Death Stranding.
Modern
Warfare 2, and oh my God. I'm gonna have to put. I might have to put Uncharted 4 up there. Lego Star Wars. That's my 5th. Uncharted 4. Lego Star Wars.
It's not even on the list. It's not even the list.
I don't care. Get it out of here. Lego Star Wars is my number 4. Okay, get Uncharted out of here. That's number.
Oh, you're switching Uncharted with Lego Star Wars.
The original Lego Star Wars when I was a kid blew my mind. I don't care. I'm taking Lego Star Wars. All right, it was a godlike game. How can you say that, Josh?
How is that in your top 5? Lego Star Wars? How? I don't know what's a worse choice, Death Stranding or Lego Star Wars. I think Lego Star Wars is a better choice. I think Death Stranding.
Don't you dare say this to me.
I would understand Lego Star Wars over Death Stranding. You have to live in the universe. The last game you played, what is it?
Fortnite. Because I did today.
Okay, all right. Build.
The other one was Alien Isolation, so I am not living.
Oh my God, Alien Isolation is terrifying.
I'm not making it out. Okay,
fantastic.
So Fortnite
game.
For sure. Yeah.
Build or no build?
No build.
What is the game that has the biggest emotional impact on your life?
Call of Duty, because I've been doing it the longest, and it was the first esport. Oh crap! Call of Duty, because it's the esport completely, like, that changed my life. So like Call of Duty is, that's the answer.
Mice and keyboard or controller?
Controller all the way. I am a console boy. I play controller on everything. Even when I'll play mouse and keyboard for certain games, but like when I'm playing shooters on PC, controller all the way.
Okay, you can only choose one. The rest will have never existed. Halo.
God.
Call of Duty.
Oh God.
Rocket League.
Oh God.
Fortnite.
Dude picked all the games I have employment in. So like if I pick one, I'm losing 90% of my revenue after this.
You choose one to keep. The rest don't exist in the world.
I mean, okay, just by the fact that Rocket League's only been around for 7 years, I'm sorry, I'm getting rid of it. Rocket League's gone. Fortnite's gone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Fortnite would be the easy one to say no to. This is the hard one.
I'm gonna say Halo goes, because I'm keeping Call of Duty, and here's why. Because what Call of Duty did overall for video game content on YouTube, and for the overall sphere of North American gaming content, esports in general, how many careers it spawned alone. Everybody at some point is traced back to like Black Ops 2. I've talked to people who are massive Minecraft YouTubers, who are working in CSGO, League of Legends, Apex, Fortnite, Rocket League, Halo. Everybody was like, at one point was like, oh yeah, I used to love Black Ops 2 and grind and watch MLG. If Call of Duty stayed, the amount of careers that it impacted is like unbelievably massive. So I'm, for the sake of the people, because I am a people person, I am keeping Call of Duty. You're welcome. Your careers are alive right now. That's all because of me.
Where can people follow you? Where can people watch your stuff?
People can follow me. I don't suggest it. Follow me on Twitter. I tweet mostly about, like, I tweet occasionally about sports when they make me mad, but follow me on Twitter, Spaceman SR. You can find me, I should say, on Twitter, on Spaceman SR. Spaceman SR on basically everything: Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. If you like pop culture, we talk about that stuff.
Sean, thank you so much for being a part of this. You are just such a vessel of joy and energy, and I love it. And I'm so lucky that I've been able to work with you. And thank you so much for taking the time for this interview.
Dude, thanks for having me. You are the absolute best.